Welcome to the Visioning Workshop for Willowbrook. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to take a moment to let people settle in and then we will get started. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project's website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller de visión para Willowbrook. Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a tomarnos un momento para que la gente se acomode y luego comenzaremos. Tengan en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto que compartiremos con usted en un momento. Welcome to the Visioning Workshop for Willowbrook. Thank you for joining us today. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller de visión para Willowbrook. Gracias por acompañarnos. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto que compartiremos con usted en un momento. Language support is available. To listen to this presentation in Spanish, check the globe symbol at the bottom of your screen. We have here today Marina Sarache Ferreiro providing Spanish translation. If you have any technical difficulties getting to the Spanish channel, please use the chat box to let us know. El soporte de idiomas está disponible. Para escuchar esta presentación en español, haga clic en el símbolo globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hoy tenemos aquí Marina Sorache Ferreiro brindando traducción al español. Si tiene alguna dificultad técnica para acceder al canal en español, utilice el botón de chat para hacérnoslo saber. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Please note that everyone joining the meeting is muted by default. You may use the raise hand feature to talk. You can also access the raise hand feature under the reaction selection menu if you don't see it in your screen. Or you may also use the chat tool to submit questions as shown on the slide. Also, at the end of the workshop today, the county would like you to respond to a brief exit survey. We will begin with some brief introductions. My name is Janet Rodriguez, and I'm today's meeting facilitator and a member of the DUDEC consultant team, collaborating with the County of Los Angeles Regional Planning Department on this project. Also from DUDEC, we have here today's we have project manager Gaurav Srivastava. We have John Camp and James Rojas from Placeit, who will be leading an activity in a few moments. And from the County Regional Planning Department, we have Tina Fung and Tahira Ferez, who will be available to answer any questions at the end of our activity. So now that you know us, we would like to get to know you. We will begin a poll shortly asking what your relationship is with Willowbrook. Do you live here, work here? Are you a business owner? Please select your answer now. You should see the poll on your screen. Great, thank you all for participating and letting us know who you are. It's great to see people who live here, work here, some of you study here, and others of you are maybe just curious to see what's going on. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about each other, let's get started on a brief introduction on why we are all here today. This visioning workshop is part of the county's metro area planning effort, which focuses on these 7 unincorporated areas of Los Angeles County shown on this slide. Some of you may have participated in the introductory workshops on October 26 and 28. If you did not get a chance to join and would like to learn more about the metro area plan, you can view the recording on the project's website at planning.lacounty.gov/metro area plan. It is available on this slide, and we will also include it in the chat box at a later time. On this slide, we have a snapshot of Willowbrook demographics, which includes a population of approximately 21,000 residents, 77% of which identify as Hispanic. Tonight's discussion and activities are centered around the Willowbrook community, which is one of the 7 communities included in the metro area plan. So with that, I will now turn it over to John Camp from Place It, who will be leading tonight's activities.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Glad you could make it. We're going to be going through an interactive exercise tonight where you're actually going to be able to use your hands and build models of what you'd like to see in your community and also a favorite childhood memory. So you can skip forward, Janet. So we're going to be doing 2 activities. Next slide. So the first one that we're going to be doing is we're going to be building our favorite childhood memory using found objects. Next slide. And so people often wonder, okay, why are we actually going to be building a favorite childhood memory when we're here at a planning meeting? But why we do this is because what we really want to do is find out what really matters to you and what your core values are. And a lot of times within our favorite childhood memories are those core values. So we want to see what those are and then have everyone share those. Next slide. And then the second model building activity is we're going to have you build your ideal neighborhood, your ideal Willowbrook. And we'll be doing the same thing. So we'll be using found objects to build that ideal Willowbrook. Next slide. What we want to do through this activity is really find out what spaces and places matter to you and why, and what your hopes and dreams are for your neighborhood. Next slide. So when we say model building, we mean something that's very simple and that involves using just objects that you have lying around the house. So you can use things like hair rollers, corks, pipe cleaners, spoons, silverware, plates, books, no matter, it doesn't really matter what you use. And then you can just use some sort of simple rectangular base for your model. So it could be a book, it could be a piece of paper, anything, and that's what you're going to build your model on. Next slide. So these are some sample models. So you can see, so it doesn't have to be anything perfect. Here's someone who just used a whole bunch of random items to build a model of their favorite childhood memory, which was being with family in Mexico and learning how to dance. Next slide. This is another sample model. So this is another favorite childhood memory, someone built hanging out with their whole family and being outside. And here's next slide, please. And then this is another one. So this is building a nativity scene or a nacimiento with her grandmother. Next slide. So what we're going to do now is dive into this interactive activity. So we're going to have 40 minutes total. So we're going to build and then we're going to share and then we'll build and then we'll share. And how it will work with the sharing is that you'll build your model and then take a picture of it. And then you can send the picture to my email. And I'm going to change my name so that you have my email address right now. So put this in here. So my email address is there. So what we'll do is we'll take about 5 to 7 minutes to build our favorite childhood memory. And then once you've done that, take a picture of it and email it to me to the address that's in that you can see at the bottom of my screen.
For the chat.
And it's also in the chat as well. So any questions before we get started with the interactive exercise, part 1 of the interactive exercise? All right, cool. Well, if you have questions, you can just send me a message, but otherwise we'll get started. So we'll take about 5 to 7 minutes and folks will build their favorite childhood memory with found objects. All right, cool. So for those who just joined, what we're doing right now is we're building our favorite childhood memory using found objects. What we're trying to do is get a sense of what really matters to you and what your core values are. And so you can use the objects like the ones that are in the photo here on the screen. If you have any questions about this, you can also just send me a direct message in the chat. But we're taking about 5 to 7 minutes to do this. And then one more thing to add, once you've built your favorite childhood memory, you take a photo of it and you can send it to my email address, which you can see. I have it up here and it's also in the chat as well. Cool. So let's start wrapping up with this part of the model building activity, and you can start sending your photos my way. My email address is where I am, so I have it up in my name, and then it's also in the chat. Does anyone have any questions about sending them? So far, I haven't gotten any, so I just want to make sure that folks are clear on how to send them. Otherwise, yeah, what we can do is people can turn their cameras on and they can just share by way of their cameras so we can see what you've built. If you don't want to send an email of a photo.
Anything about yet?
Okay, well, so I think what we'll do then, so I've gotten one from James, but I haven't been able to I haven't gotten any from anyone else. So is there someone out there who would like to share either use their camera to show us what they built, or at least then just share what their favorite childhood. Oh, okay, we have someone, cool. So Erica, thank you. I'm gonna pull yours up and you can share what you built. Awesome, thank you. So give me 1 sec. I'm going to share the screen. Awesome. Erica, tell us, what did you build?
Yeah, thank you. I just put stuff together that was just around the house. And hello, everyone. My name is Erica Pinto, and I currently work in the community of Willowbrook, but I am originally from the neighboring community of Florence Firestone, so I know Willowbrook pretty well. And I think, you know, an ideal neighborhood for me, or like favorite childhood memories, is cooking definitely with my family, which to the right, there's a metate, or you know, something that we use to grind spices and other herbs. And then I had a little apple laying around. It's actually missing the nub, but it's one of those like stress ball things. I think food is definitely a huge area where we could use more grocery stores, farmers markets, whatever it could be, like in the community of Willowbrook. Education, housing, more nature, and just spaces to play baseball or just be active, I think are make up an ideal neighborhood for me. More than a month later, here we are, pounds and pounds of tar bales are washing the shores far away, actually San Diego. There's almost everything these days. There's an app for that as well, where you step and chef. How does it work?
Sean, I believe you're muted.
Cool. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I was muted. So I'm just putting this in the chat, what you said about your memory. And we'll just keep adding more into the chat as we go. Thanks, Erica, for sharing that with us. That was great. So let me stop the share here and pull up the next one. Would anyone else like to share a favorite childhood memory with us? Anyone? Okay, well, I'm gonna share the next one. And,
Looks like we have a hand raised.
oh, we have a hand raised. Okay, cool.
Paola?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Paola, and I'm a community member here in unincorporated Willowbrook. I didn't get to drawing mostly because my energies are really low, but I was picking up a few items around that reminded me of both my childhood and I think my ideal neighborhood. And so I just wanted to show them to folks here. One is this very beautiful book that I keep next to my bed called We're Water Protectors. It's a really beautiful book by two Indigenous women, femmes, Carol and Micaela. I encourage folks to read it. It's really beautiful. It's a children's book, but it reminds me of where our family is from in an indigenous town in Western Mexico, and learning about where water comes from and how sacred it is. And this book talks about that. And I think I dream about the healing of the land and of our waters here and the centering of Tangba, Ahashiman indigenous peoples. They are the original people of the lands on which we are on, the lands and waters. And so that came to mind for me. And healing particularly from all of the polluters that harm our communities and our bodies. And then the second one is a picture here that I have. It is a black and white picture that I have of the Compton Tenants Union and some of the organizing that we've been doing with our unhoused neighbors. Because I think it reminds me of my childhood because of how I learned how to build community, how you connect with people in a very meaningful way to build relationships with folks. And I think when I think about the future here in Willowbrook, I think about this being continued, this beautiful work from the grounds up, from people who live here, stuff being done by us, for us, and that is accepting of everyone, right? And that doesn't displace, that doesn't gentrify. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. And I've written down your memories in the chat here. I think I saw another hand. Is that true? Okay. All right. I'm gonna share another model. So give me one sec here. Okay, this is James. He's going to share his.
Hi, I'm James Rojas, and I grew up in East LA, and similar to Willowbrook, it's a low-income Latino neighborhood. And I remember my childhood was always playing out in the street, and that was a really important part of my childhood because by playing in the street, I learned how to interact with other people. I learned how to be social. And I learned how to really think about people from different backgrounds. So I think that's important, is having safe streets for kids to play on, because that's where they kind of learn about life, and it's really intimate, initial activities playing on the streets.
Awesome. Thank you, James. I've written that into the chat. Anyone else want to share their favorite childhood memory?
Janet, can I share your memory? Want to talk about one?
My childhood memory is in my aunt's living room. It was cluttered and she just had so many pictures on the walls of all our family members. But to me, that was, my playground, my home. It was just a special place.
Pictures really kind of tie us to places and makes us feel good. So how do you create a landscape of memory that tells a story that kind of has meaning for us than just a generic landscape? It's really important. Thank you. How about anybody else? Christina Tran? Bianca, want to share your memory?
Sure. One of my favorite memories growing up is going to a specific hiking trail near my house with my aunt and uncle and seeing the salamanders and climbing on rocks.
Yeah, nature's important to children, and how do we bring nature back into cities is really important because salamanders, they need really clean water. If we can have salamanders back to Willowbrook, you have a really nice place to live. How about you, Marina or Alberto?
One of my childhood memories is just playing in the street with the other neighbors, and just having fun out there. And when the streets used to be clear and not so much traffic, and just going out there and just having fun with the bicycles, playing football, and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's similar to my upbringing in East LA. You're always out in the street. How about you, Dolores? Any memories? But Tahira, any memories? Me, Tahira?
Hi, sure, I'll go ahead and share. I think for me, there's a lot of memories I can think of, but they all kind of center around the same thing, which is being with family and friends. So growing up, I grew up near the beach, so I would go to the beach a lot with family, but also just being in the neighborhood with my brothers and other kids in our neighborhood and being able to play outside. I think folks kind of mentioned things like that, but yeah, just centered around socializing and family memories.
Yeah, it's important for us to think about how these public spaces really can combine just to go with other people.
Thanks, Marina, for sharing yours as well. So she wrote into the chat her favorite childhood memory was going to a carnival in the streets and water balloon fights with her cousins. Yvette, thank you for sharing yours in the chat as well. Hanging out with your adopted grandparents, and you had large bird cages in the backyard, and they'd breed parakeets. Then your grandfather would sell them to the neighbors. Lots of herbs, and your grandmother would use them for healing. Thank you for sharing that.
A lot of knowledge here from the community and how we use spaces and how we bring that to Willowbrook.
What I'd love to do now is have folks just go through the. I've written everything in the chat, the memories that people have shared. So I'd love for folks to just go back in and pull out the recurring themes that you see amongst all the memories. And then you can just either type those recurring themes into the chat, or you can just turn on your mic and tell us. So a family, good. Thanks, Marina. Yeah, space to roam and explore safely. Community, great. Yeah. What else do you guys see?
Respecting nature. and our elders.
Paula, what did you see as recurring themes in here?
I think I was typing in the chat that I think being in relationship with Mother Earth and each other and all life around us, including water.
Great.
How about you, Erica?
Sorry, I have a lot going on in the back, but I think recurring themes are definitely community, being with family, having a safe place to go out and be in open space near nature, for recreation too, playing sports, exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of streets too. I noticed a lot of people were playing out in the street, and I didn't get a chance to share my model, but that's exactly what I built, was playing on the sidewalk with my friends when I was growing up. So
A lot of intergenerational activities.
Yeah.
Your grandparents and grandkids. Intergenerational.
Hey, John and James, I have one observation too, both from what we've heard this evening, but also I think from my own childhood memories. And I wanted to call out the sense of discovery and around spending time with siblings, which I think, at least for my childhood, was pretty important. Like trying to find forbidden places with siblings. And that's like one of the memories that really stands out for me. And I think I just want to put a plug for spending time with siblings while you're growing up is one of the most defining experiences of our childhood.
absolutely, yeah, and that recurring theme of discovery and finding new things and independence, where you're away from your parents and you're exploring for the first time away from your parents.
Can I add one too, that I think health was mentioned directly and indirectly? I think we saw an image, right, of someone who shared items that you use to make food, and other folks mentioned just being outdoors. I mentioned the healing, right, of our earth and of the water. And so health, healthy bodies, healthy communities comes to mind.
Yeah, yeah. These are all very nurturing memories. You know, these are what made us healthy. These memories kind of nurtured our life. And it's really important to start applying a process from a soul perspective of nurturing and caring. That's how we're gonna you know, heal the world by kind of understanding what that means to us.
Yeah, great. So this is an awesome list. And so what we're going to do now is our second. Oh yeah, if you want to say
Yeah,
something.
so I wanted to say that, you know, I think people didn't build toys and build objects, they built kind of experiences. Let's really understand, you know, how important city planning is about an experience. You know, it's not about having a lot of toys, or it's about, you know, how you connect with people and how you have these really important experiences in your life that really kind of guide you through the process. And what I tell people is that these memories are actually your DNA for city planning. This is why we're here. We're trying to uplift that story that you just told, and how do we apply the story to this plan? You know, and how do we, you know, because that becomes your plan, your story. You know, rather than say we want, you know, and thinking about human interactions as kind of social infrastructure that we need for the planning process. So thank you really much. Thank you very much, and I'll start doing the next activity.
Yeah, thanks, James. That was great. That was great to add that on. So what we're going to do now is our part 2 of our model building activity. And I know there are some new folks actually.
Hey, Daisy.
Daisy's here.
So,
So there are some new folks who've trickled in, which is great. So you still have a chance to do some building. So what we're going to do is build our ideal Willowbrook. And the same thing, so you're going to use found objects from around your house, from around your room. Anything that you want to use, you can use. I have like a sample right here so you can see. So it's just like random objects. And what you'll do is just build your ideal Willowbrook. And if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. You can tell us, but I would love, love, love for everyone to try to build, because we get way more creative and have more visionary ideas for our communities when we build versus when we just talk about what we want.
And also when you build, you understand the relationship you have with the built environment. And that's what we want to get at. You know, how did your body connect to Willowbrook? When I build this model, we can start telling that story. So we have how many, 5 minutes?
Yeah, it'll take 5 to 7 minutes. We're doing good on time. So it'll take about, it's 5 to 7 minutes to do it. And we'll actually film ourselves building so that you can see us doing this in real time as well. All right, cool. So let's take 5 to 7 minutes and start building our ideal Willowbrook. All right, great. So let's take a couple more minutes to build, and then when you're ready, you can either take a picture of your model and send it to me by way of my email address, or we can do what we did before where you just turn your camera on and share what you built. So we'll take a couple more minutes. All right, cool. So is there anyone who would like to kick things off with what they built for their ideal Willowbrook?
Want to go first?
Otherwise, we can share what we built just to get things started. So let me do that. We'll share what we built. So, all right. Hopefully everyone can see that. So what we ended up building was on the right-hand side, you can see there's a street, and we basically don't have any cars in it, but there is public transportation. Next to it are people hanging out and playing. We've got tons of nature, water.
Willowbrook.
The
Brook.
The brook. Yeah, Willowbrook itself. We've got fruit representing fruit trees. We've got some cool architecture represented by the pastel colored buildings. And is there anything that
Street lights, safe streets.
Yeah, that's right. There's street lighting, which you can't see very well, and then housing for everyone, which you can't see very well. You can just see the roof there. Anyways, but that's our ideal Willowbrook. Cool. So who would like to go next and share?
Put the pictures on there.
I'll go for it.
Hi, Paola. Want to tell us about your ideal Willowbrook?
Yeah, sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, I just healthy.
Yeah. let me see. So I gathered a few things like I did before, because that's where my mind goes to. So you can see here some lavender, and then I also have some medicine here, an elderberry, and both of these were sourced locally as medicine for myself and my family. And I think when I think of my commitment to, and then also just ideal community, I think of growing, of being in relationship with the land, of making medicina. And I also just did more of like bubbles. I didn't do a drawing, but at the very bottom, you can see some squiggly lines. That ideally it's supposed to be just water flowing freely, because I know that the Compton Creek begins very close to Willowbrook. I don't know if it's within the official boundary, but I think it's a really important part of like who we are as a neighborhood. And when I close my eyes and dream, I dream of just water and marshes, which is what this land used to look like. But colonizers channelized the water, unfortunately, and have harmed it. So I wrote water is life. I also wrote polluters out of here. Marshes and wetlands, as I said, land back. That's actually where I started, land back to Indigenous peoples, and housing for all. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, the whole idea is that now it's time to heal the environment, and hopefully we can heal it through this plan. Thank you very much, Viola. And what about you, Daisy? What's your ideal Willowbrook? Have any ideas?
Yeah, hi everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can all hear you.
Okay, awesome. Wow, Paola, this is such a beautiful image. Thank you so much. My camera is not working right now.
It's okay.
But I can try to describe. And I want to just quickly put out a disclaimer that I don't live in Willowbrook, but I do work in Willowbrook. So I think just to echo what I've heard from a lot of community members that I've been working is safety through just safety, like meaning like the ability to move freely without fearing in just existing in their skin, in their bodies. Lighting, it's so simple. I think it's so simple, but it's not. Just more lighting, cleanliness, and ownership, meaning that people really feel like they see themselves be reflected in the actual structures around them. And I think everything that Paola said, yes, 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 yes. More water, more land, just more beauty, because that's exactly what Willowbrook deserves.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, the whole idea is, how do we create safe environments that are not calling more police, but just having a safe world to live in? We don't need police. So I think thinking about nature, thinking about environments that make us safe and comfortable is kind of the first step in looking at safety. Yeah, thanks, Daisy. Dolores, Christina, want to share your ideal Willowbrook?
I think definitely safe streets for, kids to run around and play outside. Lots of, I guess, amenities and restaurants, shopping, convenient shopping, etc. That, you can walk to, or at least just drive very short distance. And I think just like a lot of more trees if possible, just bring in nature and I guess lighting, safety, etc.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, having more trees is really is really important because it really kind of helps us in a lot of different ways, from shade, green, clean air. It just adds beauty to the environment. Yeah, it's great. Dolores, you have anything you want to share? Any ideas?
Well, I think to have safe streets for the children to play, and parents don't have to be worrying about checking on them all the time when they go out to play. As I remember in my childhood, I would go and walk to the neighbor's house and just play with other children, and there was really no worries about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, trees are very important because we need clean air, and they provide shade, and they provide beauty, and well, it just looks nicer, a neighborhood with lots of trees.
Yeah, but having a child-friendly community that children can just be themselves and be free and to explore is really great. Thank you.
Yes, a neighborhood that you can walk around, you can feel safe, even if you decide to go and exercise and walk like at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and don't be worrying about what might happen or taking somebody with you.
Yeah.
So safety is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more important. Thank you.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah, 'cause I think we heard, in all our childhood memories, there was underlying safety. There was underlying safety in all of them. We all felt safe in these memories, so that's why we did them. So I think it's just part of who we are as human beings. You want to have a safe space to occupy and be ourselves.
Awesome, great. Let's see, who we not heard from, Tahira or Tremetria?
Petria, anything you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Also to disclose, I work in Willowbrook. And I definitely think, what everyone, to piggyback off what everyone else has said about like just a sense of safety, a sense of being able to just walk anywhere in your community and feel that you can explore and everything. I guess the one thing I really fixate on is lights at night, street lights, sidewalk lights, just lights from maybe businesses that are closed, but they've left their lights on. Like something that's just gonna keep that level of warmth, where especially since there's a lot of like kids who walk home from school, they walk in groups, which is really good from what I've observed, again, from working in Willowbrook. But just having more street lights, more visibility, just so that the community can, like the people in the community who, everyone who has that investment in the youth can like just keep an eye on them to make sure they get home safely. That way they're not turning a corner and it's just absolutely dark because there maybe aren't enough lights. So I just like, just the one thing that I think would really kind of help just to create that transparency and that visibility, for safety.
Yeah, especially during daylight saving time. It's already dark outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just switched over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in our minds right now.
So, Hari, you have anything you want to share?
Tahira?
Well, since I work for the county, I don't want to really, throw my opinion in there. I'm just really listening to what everyone's saying.
No problem.
So, but I appreciate the comments, particularly around safety and trees.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
That's great.
So I've written down everyone's ideas in the chat here, and I just wanted to go back through because we've heard a lot of different ideas, a lot of really creative ideas. So like in the first exercise, I'd love for folks to just go back through and see what some of the recurring themes are. Like, what are some of the things that we saw in all of the models? We're all from, some of us are from Willowbrook, some of us work in Willowbrook, some of us don't live there at all. But what are some of the things that really tie all of these ideal Willowbrooks together? And you can either just chime in like before, or you can type into the chat what the recurring themes are that you see. Cool. So we've got safety, lighting, and nature. Awesome. I will type that in.
Put it in for the whole group.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'll put it in for the whole group.
I think water and healing.
Others, folksy, you saw? Housing, good. Housing, let's put that in. Housing for all. Being able to walk freely was something that was a strong recurring theme.
Especially at night.
Including, yeah, so say including at night. Trees were definitely a big one. Lots of people said they wanted more trees.
Kid-friendly streets.
Yes, so a lot of people said that spaces and places for kids to play where parents didn't feel like they had to constantly be checking in on them.
And low stress streets.
Good, yeah. So Daisy said enjoying life outside, kids playing on streets, people walking safely, restaurants.
I think kind of building the social cohesion of Willowbrook through the streets.
Building and social cohesion.
Public life.
Yeah. Public life. Great.
So it's challenge with no.
So these are great. Here's a question we like to ask people. Were there any surprises in terms of things that people did not build? So to get you guys started on that question, we can give you an example. So no one built parking, which was a surprise to us because usually when we have community meetings and we ask people what they want, we don't have people build what they want. They say they want more parking, but when we built our ideal community, no one said that. Were there any other surprises in that way? Things that you were surprised people didn't build?
Big box stores.
Okay.
Big box stores. People did not build big box stores.
Cool. So cool. Well, so we're gonna move on in a sec to the next activity, but before we close up, I just wanted to see if anyone learned something new about their neighborhood or about themselves through this activity. So Daisy, for example, here we'll call on you. Did you learn anything new about yourself or Willowbrook through this activity?
Something new about myself?
Or about others, about the neighborhood, just by way of this activity? Something that surprised you, something, a recurring theme that surprised you that you really noticed?
To be honest, no.
Okay, so this is all this is all pretty expected, what people built.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, people want,
Same thing.
they want everything, and I think that a lot of the visions are shared by not just people in this meeting, but I think also in passing conversations that I've had with other community members. It seems to be really consistent.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're kind of developing our core values for the community and what they want to establish, because now we see the same things kind of over and over again. And that's when you kind of know you kind of hit the spot.
But it's interesting too, that observation though, that across communities, no matter what the community is, what the social makeup of the community is, what people want a lot of times and what people value, those things tend to be very similar from community to community. And I shouldn't be surprised by that, but I always am, because we do this all the time with diverse neighborhoods and communities that are very different from each other. Trees, for example, people increasingly, it seems like more and more compared to 5 years ago, said that they want more trees, for example. So, okay, well, great. We really appreciate that you guys participated in this activity. We are going to move on to the next part of the meeting. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, John and James. Hi, everyone. I want to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Gaurav Srivastav. I'm an urban designer with Dudek, and I'm working with county staff on developing the metro area plan. So first of all, thank you for all your input so far. I think from the perspective of shaping and making a plan, what is really valuable input to us is to get a better sense of the values of the community, the expectations that community members have of their own physical environment, and then the aspirations that all of you have on what you would like your ideal future community to look like. And all the discussion we've had so far, I think, will just help shape a plan that responds to each of those issues. This last activity is not very long, and it's more specific. But we would like your help on is to help us understand the places in your community in Willowbrook that you value, that you want to see preserved, that have a special significance to you, your family, your neighbors, and to help you think through that request. We have a couple of items up on the slide that you see. So on the right is a plan from Los Angeles County's general plan that was adopted in 2015 that broadly identified locations in Willowbrook that provided an opportunity to the community to explore amenities and destinations. And as you can see, they're largely centered along the Wilmington corridor. So between Imperial Highway and 120th Street is an area in Willowbrook that the county's general plan thinks has potential for providing services, amenities, future opportunities to the community. It's centered, as you can imagine, around the Willowbrook Rosa Parks Transit Center, the Martin Luther King Jr. Hospital. But we wanted to dive a little bit deeper and to try and understand from your unique perspective of understanding the community, what are some places and locations that this map does not capture? And some examples of those kinds of places are listed on the slide. So places in Willowbrook that you might want to take your visitors to and show them around, some landmarks in the neighborhood, places that you frequent or are aware of that host outdoor activities, festivals, events, favorite places to eat, maybe places that have outdoor music, parks that you frequent, local businesses that you want to see sustained over the coming years, any special places you like to visit. Give it some thought, and you can let us know just by either raising your hand and talking to us, or enter your responses in the chat window. And all this input, I think, will help us, for one, create a map that identifies community assets in Willowbrook. And I think at the end of the day, that is a significant set of locations that the ultimate plan for Willowbrook should be shaped around. So I'll stop talking, and then if any of you have any ideas on places that we should certainly document, we'll do that over the next few minutes.
I can share if I'm able to.
Sure.
I think I really like the question because it allows us to think about what we want to protect. I was recently watching a film with some young people that I work with here in Willowbrook and in Compton about mushrooms and the mycelium and how connected they are, right? Like the network of mushrooms underground. And I always think of my community in that kind of way, that there's deep roots in how we are connected to each other, although sometimes it's not that visible. And I always like to think about, right, like all these mushrooms and fungi, because that's precisely what I want to protect. And so some of the things that come to mind, right, with like this underground system are street vendors. Folks who sell corn, folks who sell tamales. Those are folks that I think you find across all our neighborhood that are really precious people and make up, you know, our community. And so it's really important to protect them over major corporations. I think a second thought that also comes to mind is that industrial flex district. And also, you know, I know that I've been taking up a lot of space in this meeting, and just really appreciate that opportunity. And I heard about this meeting through East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice, which I'm really thankful for. And I really hope to continue to tell like my friends and neighbors and other folks to come through to other meetings, because I don't, right, like as a community member, represent like everyone, right? Like I'm sharing from my own point of view. I just wanted to name that. And so personally, right, like that industrial flex district is harmful. They perpetuate so much violence. They cause cancer, they cause asthma, violence to our bodies and to our lungs. And so I think they unfortunately are a part of that network, right? But not naturally. It's because racist policies have allowed them to be in our neighborhood. And so they need to go. That's one thing that I wanted to say. In these plans, right, they need to be addressed. And East Yard has been engaging a long time fighting for many years for green zones policies. And I know for those of you who are involved in these land use conversations, this isn't new, right? And so I think finding a way to integrate that language to protect our neighborhoods from these harms, to ensure that they don't, you know, I don't have a warehouse right next to me, that students who go to Centennial, for example, right, don't have these polluters across the street, because they currently do, right? That's really important. That's really important to me. So I did want to name that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
That's a good point. I think we think about the street vendors, they're the ones that give life to streets. They're kind of that glue that connects to people on the streets of built environments. Great, thanks.
Looks like we have a hand raised.
Eugene, you can unmute yourself and talk. Thank you.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
Thanks for having me. So I'm from the Willowbrook area, and got to meet Daisy. How you doing, Daisy? But a lot of things with over here is like they don't really have much to, so it's like we have to start from scratch, build stuff that people want to preserve, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So if you look at like the Magic Johnson Park, they have the lake, but it doesn't really get utilized. So this is some of the stuff I've been talking with Daisy about. She know I've been blowing up her email, but like game fishing, it could be a good opportunity to create an environment where people gather for special events like game fishing, and the vendors come out and have like big events like that. And also, like Paolo was saying, the vendors, right? If they had like a location where, let's say, for example, East Los Angeles, people know, oh, I'm gonna go to East Los Angeles to go get some tacos. Why do they come to Willowbrook? What is the reason that they would come to Willowbrook, right? So if we have stuff like that, let's say like a central location where everybody knows this is where I'm going to go to get this certain type of food or whatever it is, and also work with the vendors rather than, instead of them like walking miles in the neighborhood, you have a location where people know, hey, this is where I'm going to go to get this, you know? So like I said, unfortunately, we don't really have a lot to preserve because we're kind of starting from scratch. But I'm also talking to Daisy. I emailed her about like having trails and stuff, like paths in the community where people could walk. And that's something that people could bring their friends over to the community and say, hey, let's go on a nice little hike or a nice little walk in the neighborhood, you know? So that's it.
Thank you, Eugene. Anybody else with some suggestions on special places in Willowbrook that we should be aware of? All right, I think that's, thank you all for sharing. That's again, very valuable to our planning process. And I think that might conclude the 3 activities we have scheduled for this first visioning workshop. Janet, if you go to the next slide. I just want to let all attendees today know of upcoming future visioning workshops in the next few weeks, and then additional community workshops in spring of next year. So today was our first of 6 visioning sessions, which we've just concluded. There are additional meetings tomorrow onwards for the other communities of the metro area plan. We have previously shared with you the website address for the metro area plan project. It's on the screen, planning.lacounty.gov/metro area plan. Details about all meetings, documents for download, as well as recordings of all meetings that have been conducted so far are available on the website. We also have a community survey currently live. We would appreciate if you can respond to that survey, unless you already have. The URL, the website for that survey is also on the screen, and I will post it in the chat window as well. We'll have the survey open for the next several weeks, so if you're able to, please respond to that. And then our final activity for this evening is an exit survey on behalf of the county. But before we do that, I'd like to invite Tina Fung, who's with the Department of Regional Planning at the county, just to say a few closing words.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm just going to show my face, even though I look pretty tired at the end of the day. But anyway, I just want to say thank you again for joining today's meeting. And I can see a lot of pride and how much you care about your neighborhood just by listening to some of the thoughts and the comments that I heard. And actually, while I was listening to a lot of the comments, it reminded me of a few years ago when Roston Wu, a local artist, worked on the Willowbrook Is project. I don't know if anyone here aware of it, but it was a county, I believe it was like a county sponsored project where this artist basically interviewed a lot of the Willowbrook residents and you know, people who live in the neighborhood, and just wrote a book in 2 languages, in English and Spanish, to share their stories in the community. And so when I was listening to all the comments and the inspiration from the attendees tonight, it just reminded me of that book that that Roston worked on a few years ago. I think it's like 2014 or something. And I could just, you know, kind of, you know, see that again tonight, you know, that people are, you know, in the neighborhood really care about, you know, how to preserve what is valuable, but at the same time, how to sort of use this opportunity to kind of, you know, have some visioning of, you know, the future. And so I'm just really glad that, you know, even though we're not able to do this in person, and that's why we have to ask you to look for items in your house and try to, you know, be creative in, you know, telling us your stories or your childhood memories. But anyway, I'm just really glad that even though we had to do it online, virtually, I see that passion, and I really appreciate your time. So yeah, like what Gaurav was saying, we'll have sort of a second round of community outreach in the spring of next year. So Gaurav, I don't know if you also have a slide that shows the basic information for this project, like our project website and everything. So if you want to learn more about this project, or you have some other thoughts after this meeting, there is always a way to contact us. So thank you again for joining us tonight. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Tina. Yes, we have been posting links in the chat window. So the project website links are available in the chat window. We also have a project email ID, which I'm pasting right now. So you can email the project team directly using this email ID that's now in the chat window. All right, so the last thing that we wanted to do today was just a quick exit survey. So Janet, if you go to the last slide, I will launch the exit survey. And while the exit survey is up, if any of you want to copy paste any information from the chat window, we leave the chat window open for a few more minutes. So feel free to scroll up and down the chat window. All right, here comes the survey. All right, I think that concludes our meeting for this evening. Again, thank you all for volunteering your time to participate and provide your input. It is much appreciated. And feel free to get in touch with us after this meeting. Paula, I see your hand is up. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share really quickly. I had a question. I think as I shared at the very beginning, right, for me, it is really important for myself and us who are not native to these lands, right, who are here as guests, recognizing that there's a long history of violence, colonialism, that has allowed for us to be here, right? And people had to be displaced in order for us to be here. And I sit with that all the time. So I wanted to uplift once again the indigenous peoples of these lands, the Tongva, and I folks may not know, but there are 3 main villages, Tongva villages, and what we now know as like Willowbrook, Compton area, and specifically in Willowbrook, there was a village named Tahuta. And so I want to know how the folks in this project are engaging Tongva Indigenous partners, because I think I'm really interested, right, in sharing this, as I mentioned before, with my neighbors. This is really important, critical information, my parents, my grandmother, so they can provide their input too, you know, and equally important, right, are our Indigenous partners, because they know these areas best, right, in terms of how to take care of the water and the land. They did that for so many years and continue to do that because they're still here, right? So anyways, thank you for allowing me to ask. I know the meeting's ended or about to end, but I did have that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And you're right, that is a very significant issue that the plan will be responding to. So just to give you a glimpse into the process of how that engagement might work is, we have a community advisory committee that is also providing input along the way to the planning process, and invited to serve on that committee is a representative of the Keys Nation, so the Tongva people. And we are planning to meet about 8 times over the next 16 or 17 months. And those meetings will, on our side at least, we will try and ensure that the input that is relevant on this particular theme is accounted for and documented and responded to. So that's in our work plan already.
Thank you. That's really helpful to know. I didn't know that. That's really amazing. I'm really glad to hear that there's that commitment from you all and from the county to engage Indigenous peoples in this process. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I just want to do a quick check to see if anyone else has questions or final comments before we all log off. Doesn't look like there is anything else. So again, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.